Good afternoon, everyone. Here we are. We're back riding with the Rabbi, and we're in a little bit of a hiatus, getting ready for Rosh Hashanah and Kippur. But I'm so excited about this edition because I have our beloved High Holiday Aliyah Chairman, former president, doer of everything, Dr. Andy Chutter. Andy, how are you?
I'm good, Rabbi. Thank you for inviting me to spend time with you and giving us a chance to talk about bonds today.
There you go. We're going to talk about bonds. We're going to talk about shul. We could talk about the Mets, but we don't discuss the minor leagues.
We don't discuss it,
right?
exactly.
Yeah, because you just keep winning. You got to play the whole season. But that's another story for another time. Before we get to that, so tell me, how long have you lived in Livingston?
My family moved into Livingston in 1970. I was 14 years old. The only time I've been out of here is for medical school down in D.C. And then when I first did my residency, I lived in Edison for a few years, and I moved back to Livingston in 1988 and been here since.
Okay. And who's your most famous friend from Livingston?
You know, with Jason Alexander, Jay Greenspan.
Ah, okay. Jay Greenspan, I like that.
Yep.
So, and then, of course, you were from the originals of our shul, and I know there's like a little piece of Chaim trivia. The first ever bar mitzvah in the shul
was Jared's. We somehow got 257 people into the old shul building.
Wow.
With a kiddush and a tent outside.
Yeah. See, you were ahead of your time with the tents. And that was and now look at Jared. He's all grown up. He's got kids of his own, living in the neighborhood. So that's great. So you were a president of the shul?
Yes.
Early
on when it was simple, I was co-president with Dave Halpern.
Oh, okay. Must be really challenging to work with Dave Halpern, right?
Yeah. Best thing in the world. He was one of my mentors for Israel Bonds.
Oh, okay. When I like the Israel Bonds sort of segue, everything kind of funnels in. So when I started here, I just finished 8 years here. It went quick for you, right? So
I remember your tryout when we had the Ona Get My House.
At your house, yes. Friday night at your house. I remember that clearly. In March, it was March 13th of 2013.
Friday the 13th.
Yeah. Should have known that. All good. So I was not really involved in Israel Bonds, and I am now actually very much involved in Israel Bonds. I'm the chair of the Rabbinic Advisory Council. So
national chair of the Rabbinic
Advisory. Yes, I have a national chair. It travels all over the country. My kids say you're like the rabbi of Israel Bonds, is what my kids call me, and that's only because of you. You set a meeting with me early on and said, we're pretty involved here in the shul and Israel Bonds, and it would be, I think maybe you should get involved. And I like a good cause, so thanks to you, like we've done a lot of great things. So how did you get involved in Israel Bonds? Everybody has this bonds, like how they, right?
Yeah, our shul is unbelievable, which we'll get into, but I got involved with Israel Bonds about 20 years ago or so when they wanted to get some younger people involved. I'm not that anymore. And so they wanted to honor both my father and I for the medical division dinner for Israel Bonds. We were one of the first communities to have a medical division. And so they wanted to honor me and my father because my father had just retired, and figuring by honoring me, they get the next generation.
Okay.
And it was, thank God, it was a very successful dinner, thanks to all of our friends that many of you know. And it was the first time they raised over $2 million at a medical dinner for Israel Bonds. At that time, I was asked to stay on and be Art Marin's co-chairman for the medical division. Art retired, so I became the chairman of the medical division. Got involved in the local community, and thanks to Alan Janoff and Alan Pines and David Halpern, I got my turns after they did, and I became general chairman of Metro West for several years. And then during that time, I got involved nationally. I was put on the national board of Israel Bonds. I've been co-chairman of the medical division nationally for several years. I'm now the treasurer of the board of directors of Israel Bonds, and I'm on some important committees. I chair the nominating committee for Israel Bonds, board
the mentor program,
and the mentor program is really the most important thing. I'm been given the honor of being the head of the mentor committee, where we're grooming the next generation of Israel bonds leaders, because we realize that as much as we like what we're doing, the organization is bigger than us, and if we don't prepare for the next generation and for our successors, the organization won't be a success.
I love going to the national meetings because it's like being in a shul meeting. It's great to see, by the way, a shul our size that is super
It's
involved.
not only the people that we've had, but it's people coming up. Sharon Halpern and my wife are both women's chairman in the community. Debbie Janoff is the current women's chairman. Laser Rothenberg is going to be the next chairman of Metro West, and Alan Shaw is the chairman of the Signature Society, which is for people that do $250,000 a year minimum, and that was before him. It was Laser, but the whole idea of the program was developed by Dave Halpern, and it's been mirrored around the country because of what Dave Halpern developed in our community.
And not only that, but we have this program on Hanukkah, which I actually just today I sent to a colleague down in Florida. They want to replicate our Hanukkah program, which is where we get donors who will say anyone who wants an Israel bond, just all they have to do is sign up, and they have their name in the office in the registry, and they get an Israel bond for Hanukkah. And if you did it in previous years, if you buy one, the synagogue will match it, and it's just paid for by donors, so it doesn't cost the purchasers who are listed as the purchasers and the owners of the bonds any money. It's a win-win program. And one of the things that we've been working on in the Rabbinical Council is the double mitzvah program, where if you have a cause that's dear to you. So let's say we're doing something now with RZA, Rabbinical Zionist. I'm not Rabbinical, the Religious Zionist of America. Everything with me is Rabbinical. Religious Zionist of America. And let's say you have a passion towards them, or let's say you have a passion towards any organization. I know you've been working this with colleges,
yeah.
Which is the best anti-BDS thing ever. Say, I'm going to purchase a bond and give it to my institution. So that's a double mitzvah. You're buying a bond, you're supporting Israel, and at the same time, you're ultimately supporting your organization or your cause. So if I get you right, what you're saying is that if God forbid, chas v'sholom, anything would ever happen to our shul, the bonds would cease to exist, right? Is that what we're saying? Right? Because
hopefully not. But
I hope not too.
It's our shul is just unbelievable. I mean, it's not just bonds. I'm very proud of our shul because almost everybody in our shul is involved in something in the Jewish world, whether it's the school, JNF, Israel Bonds,
APAC, and the Shem, maybe
everything. I mean, we are probably the most connected shul to Israel causes that there is in the country, and it's very proud. I love it when we go to these different meetings and people really look at our shul as a model.
Right. I always say, my saying, it's the Chihuahua shul. We are tiny but mighty. But one of the things I came to understand about Israel bonds, because my knowledge of Israel bonds was probably like everyone's, you got it at your bar mitzvah and you had to look for the certificates, but now everything is digital. I actually once on a national meeting for our council, while I had Stu Garowitz was talking on the Zoom, and while he was talking, I actually purchased a bond on my phone on the app. But you realize that it's not tzedakah, it's not charity. You're actually supporting the state of Israel, and you and I have both been there, but not together though. We should do it together one time, but on our separate groups, but been on bonds missions, and you see firsthand the work that is done with the money that people raise and donate and give to the state of Israel and invest it. Again, that's the word. I use the word donate, but it's not. It's you invest in the state of Israel, which is amazing. So like I have a chelik, I have a piece of Israel, and what could be better than that, right?
The Greek government actually came to us and said, how do you do this? Because they were in such trouble. They wanted to develop a bonds program for their country, and it didn't work.
Right. How do we get our expats to care about us?
There's a unique connection, and it's very important. Israel is very important. It's important to live there and be there, but the importance of the diaspora to the state of Israel can never be underestimated. And the best connection is the Israel bond.
Right. And especially now that people haven't been able to go, this is a great way to be connected. So I know, like, traditionally it's always been a big highlight for what they call the high holiday appeal, or we say Yom Noraim, Rosh Hashanah, Yom Kippur. Many synagogues have had bond appeals, which are going through their challenges also because of COVID, etc. But we've adapted and found new ways to reach people. So what are your thoughts about a high holiday appeal, or what's the connection of Israel bonds and the high holidays?
Yeah, listen, listen, our shul, we're lucky. People come all the time. But if you look traditionally, a lot of people don't go to shul oftentimes. This is the one time they come and they connect to the religion, they connect to God, and hopefully they connect to Israel. And I certainly understand what's been going on in the world and economically over the years, that people are concerned about, and the synagogues are concerned about having an Israel bond campaign that would interfere with their own Yom Kippur appeal. But it's not mutually exclusive, it's mutually inclusive. That you can buy a bond and donate it to your synagogue. And we're now working on something that'll be announced very shortly with 1 and 2 year bonds, so that the money is not tied up for a long time. So maybe you want to pay your dues to your synagogue. What you do is pay your dues this year and maybe pay your dues for next year at the same time in the form of an Israel bond. So when your dues are due, then your bond is due.
I love that.
And so it's not mutually exclusive. We can support all these organizations without having the money drag out for many years, and we're supporting Israel. And the biggest push we have right now in Israel bonds, thank God we make our numbers every year. We went from a $600 million a year to a $1 billion a year organization, and last year in the pandemic we were asked to do $1.5 billion, and we broke that record.
Right, we needed the extra $400,000 to $500,000, and
$400 to $500 million.
$1 million, you know.
Yeah.
I'm a rabbi. I think very small numbers.
And we were able to do it. But really, the most important thing is the number of people buying bonds. And well over half the people that buy bonds, it's under $1,000 purchase. Israel cares about the small purchases. I would much rather 100 people buy a $100 bond or even a $54 bond than one person buy a big bond, because there's strength in numbers. And we want to show that there are thousands and thousands and tens of thousands of Jews that are supporting the state of Israel. And you can buy bonds for as little as $36 now online. And there's nothing better than a bar mitzvah gift or a baby naming gift or a wedding gift. I don't write checks anymore. I go online, I buy an Israel bond. I like to do it right the week before the event for the weddings and the bar mitzvahs. I print out a card, I email the card to the person. I don't have to worry about bringing an envelope with me to the party. And it's already done and they already know about it. And it's a great way, and it's very simple once you set up the account.
I wish we could have the number of like our local office flash across the screen here. You know?
No, but you don't even know. IsraelBonds.com. It takes about 10 minutes to set up your account.
And once you're set up, you're good. I mean,
once you're set up, it's good.
And the app is great. I mean,
you can do it on the app. You can do it on the phone. And it literally, now I can buy a bond in 5 minutes for a gift.
That's amazing. Wow, and I love the idea of the shorter term. That's always been a hesitancy of donating a bond to a third party because
the Mazel Tov bonds are 5 years. But you know what? You give a kid a bar mitzvah bond at 13,
that's money. But in terms of, let's say, donate to an institution.
Donate to an institution.
Right, where they probably need the money quicker.
Right, there's shorter term things so that you can think ahead and plan ahead.
I love that. Well, I guess that's what it is. It's planning ahead. I mean, we can never take for granted what we have, the great blessing we have, which is the state of Israel. And we can never take anything in our lives for granted. And you know what? You have led by tremendous example. You and Barbara, and now your kids involved, but by tremendous example about what it means to step up and to lead. And
it's easy when you have the community that we live in, that everybody supports each other. Whether all the groups, people in different organizations, we all support each other. We live in what I like to say an old-fashioned shtetl with just nicer houses, but we really have a tremendous feeling towards Israel and Yiddishkeit in our community, and it makes it very easy to be involved and to participate.
Absolutely. Well, I'm glad we have this time to bond together. You saw what I did there? You saw that?
I saw that.
But I want to wish you and Barbara a happy, healthy. Again, the most important that everybody should be well. A new year, Shana Tova, sweet new year, and you've had a great year in your family. Kanai Nahara, the family should keep growing. Yep.
Despite all the craziness in the world, thank God my family's really been very lucky this year.
Amen, amen. And I feel so privileged. I've been a part of your family simchas, and I want to thank you for giving us the time. And you know what? It's a great, great mitzvah just to spread the word about something people don't know, but a great thing people can do before Rosh Hashanah Yom Kippur. Start your year off right. Purchase an Israel bond, support your beloved homeland, your state of Israel, And what better way to do things, right?
And thank you for your leadership. Really, what you support all of us, and it's a two-way street, really. So thank you for what you do for all of us. And
Thank you. I
thank
appreciate
you for
that.
your enthusiasm. For
I
Bonds
appreciate that,
what you do.
and we'll see you in the World Series.
Yep.
God willing. Thanks so much.
Thank
Take
you,
care, everybody.
Take care.